Hello guys, my name is Ender and welcome to a brand new episode of The Realm, where today I'm going to be covering a brand new game that's been released in the past few weeks. Of course, I'm talking about Dying Light. Couple of things you need to know about Dying Light before we get started. It is one of the first games to be released in 2015 that wasn't H1Z1. Now, it seems all we've been getting so far in 2015 is zombie survival games. Not that that's a problem, I mean, H1, no, I can't say that game was good. They lied and went back on they backpedaled on every promise they made. This one, however, is a AAA zombie survival game made by Techland. Not sure what they've done in the past, but this game is very reminiscent of Dead Island in many ways. If you like Dead Island, then you'll like Dying Light. So, without further ado, let's get started on the three things that I'll always love to cover: story, gameplay, and then the final bit is the Be the Zombie mode. Let's get started. Now, I'm not really sure what I was expecting in terms of story from Dying Light, but I kind of expected something a little bit ham-fisted and something a little bit silly. Sort of what I would expect from a Dead Island game, something that really doesn't take itself too seriously. But what I got was quite an interesting story. You play as Kyle Crane, a GRE agent who has been sent in to find this rogue agent known as Kadir Suleiman. And, well, there's kind of the vice of, you're in this city called Harran, and there's a zombie outbreak. You know, it kind of puts a downer on things. Basically, you have to go in and find him and either capture him or kill him, preferably found dead. If you don't, he has threatened to upload files of a incriminating nature and basically fuck everyone's shit up. So you, as an undercover agent for the tower, which is your first point of contact, as you're saved by a girl known as Jade Aldermere, you have to pay your debts back to the tower while also dealing with the fact that you are infected. Hey, great start! This actually involves a big mechanic in the game, which I'll get onto later, but it's semi-scripted, so I'm not sure if it's a major thing. Basically, you're going through this game trying to help out the members of the tower, those being Rahim, Jade's brother, Brecken, who is the master of the tower. He basically taught everyone how to run, like free run and shit, and various other sub-characters, including a guy who's been working on a cure known as Dr. Zera. Now, if you'll recognize the voice of especially Dr. Zera, because he was the voice of Achilles Davenport in Assassin's Creed 3. I saw it, and I was like, hang on, I recognize you. Now, obviously, Crane is trying to find this. By the way, Craig is voiced by Roger Craig Smith, so I sort of see Sonic in him a bit, but I also see a really smarmy dickhead who's sort of being fucked around with by a system that he doesn't really approve of. I really like that, by the way. I've always loved the sort of political commentary that people love to throw into their games, and this one's no different. You eventually meet with the opponents of the tower, known as Rice. Now, this guy is a complete and utter fucking psychopath, and I absolutely love him. I won't make any spoilers towards the story about what Rise does, but he does some really messed up shit, and he's not on levels of Vas or Pagan Min from Far Cry, but he's certainly up there as one of the real true nut jobs of gaming. What else is there I'd have to say? Basically, it's all gameplay based, all the stuff I have to talk about. There's a day and night cycle and shit, and basically when you're out in the daytime, the zombies are manageable, but when you get out into the night, you're basically at threat from new types of zombies, those being the Night Stalkers. Obviously they're much more dangerous, and you should not. And it constantly reminds you should not be out at night, because if you are, you're a very silly person and probably going to die. Maybe I should go on to talk about the survival aspect of it. Obviously, this game's a survival horror in many ways, and you have three different skill trees. You have you have your power skills, your agility skills, and your survival skills. Your survival skills are pretty awesome, and they basically allow you to craft shit a little bit better and make you be able to craft newer and better stuff like shields, and also eventually you get a grappling hook, which makes traveling around the map much easier. But then you have agility and power points, which basically give you access to new free running and combat abilities. Depending on the type of weapon you use can use different combat abilities, and with your free running abilities you can run for longer without getting tired, or you can do more advanced techniques like drop kicking and vaulting and stuff like that. It's really cool. But yeah, so without further ado, let's go on to talk about the gameplay. So the gameplay is really where Dying Light stops being your conventional survival horror game where you have about as much durability as a piece of tissue paper, and it really makes you become, like, dependent on how good you are with the controls, you can be the vanguard of your own ability. Like, sometimes you can just completely avoid taking damage and shit. It's really up to your skill and how you would approach a situation. And I really like that. I really like that sort of freedom of choice and that ability to do, or to be in control of it, not sort of messing around with the game's bullshit. Now, as I previously mentioned, you have various combat abilities as well as free running abilities. Now, the control layout itself is a little bit strange. For example, the R2, like I play on the PS4. So R2 is your attack button, R1 is your jump button, L1 is your kick, and L2 is your sub-weapon. Now, I may be more than used to just things like Mirror's Edge and shit like that, but I would much rather have it on an X button or maybe on the L1 button, because that was what it was for Mirror's Edge. But mapped to X is your survivor sense. Now, your survivor sense basically allows you to find loot and shit. It's kind of like your hearing, your listening in The Last of Us, though you can't actually see most enemies through walls. You can only see virals and various special type of zombies, like spitters, bombers, and obviously the Night Stalkers. But the survivor sense otherwise is kind of, it never really comes into its own. It's sort of an ability that's like, here's some shit that you didn't see, we'll point it out for you because you're a fucking idiot. I'm okay with that. Like, I use it, I always fire it off all the time just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But you rack up a shit ton of loot. Like, for a game that's survival horror, you find so much loot. While the weapon resources, like, you use metal parts to repair your weapons. I never ran out of metal parts. I never ever got to the point where I was like, oh shit, I'm out of metal parts, and I'm never going to be able to repair my weapon again. I never got to that stage, which is kind of a shame, because it didn't really make me value my weapons that much. It just sort of runs out, repair it, done. Though you do have limited repairs on your weapons, that's something that's worth mentioning. There's also just your mobility in general. As you get through the game, like, first you sort of notice, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, I am so slow, and I'm useless, and you're really sluggish at first. But it's kind of understandable because you are a government agent and you've only just learned how to free run. By the end of it, you are fucking tearing through city slums. Like, by the time I got to Old Town, also known as Sector Zero, you are just, there's nothing that can really stop you. Like, you've got so many things to your disposal already, and you can do even more by just grinding at night for your agility and power points and stuff. It's really... Now, what I haven't mentioned so far is actually the multiplayer mode. Now, Dying Light does have a cooperative multiplayer, but there's also sort of a competitive multiplayer. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, at nighttime you get unique kinds of zombies. What it doesn't mention is that there is actually a type of player-controlled zombie. Now, originally this was going to be a pre-ordered DLC, but whatever their name is, Techland, decided that that was a very fucking stupid idea because they didn't want to be like Evolve, and basically made it a piece of free day one DLC, which is great because it means that we don't have an entire fucking game mode locked out from us at the start, which I'm very, very happy with, to be honest. Basically, I haven't tried Be the Zombie mode yet, but from what I've seen on live streams, is that you basically get to control a Night Stalker, and you get to invade a player's game, and you get to try and kill them for extra points. Now, this does sort of carry over to your character, I assume, but it's just a lot of fun to invade a game and get some stupid git who has been, like, grinding for agility and power points in the night. So that's really awesome. Now, obviously, you can go through the entire story mode in a cooperative instance. Apart from the final mission, the only one that you cannot access as a collective group, as it were, is the final mission, where you have to go at it alone because, well, for story reasons, you really should be doing shit like that by yourself, and you should be moderately powerful by that point. You should be able to wreck shit like no man's business. But other than that, I've not tried the multiplayer. I did try it with Amy, but unfortunately, I was actually further ahead in the story than her, so, yeah, and which is a shame. But, you know, it is kind of fun just to go run around this big sandbox, opening safe zones, and generally just having a lot of fun, because at this point, once you add 2 or more player-controlled survivors, these zombies start to become a lot less of a threat, and it seems to be a lot more safety in numbers. It's always, I guess that's why all the zombie apocalypse films and stories and TV shows always seem to have big groups because of the whole strength in numbers shit. But yeah, that's that. And there's also one other thing I wanted to mention, and that was that the sort of the locations you go to when mentioning onto multiplayer, the locations you go in the game, like certain points, there's a school at one point, and then there's also an apartment block, which you have to go to in Old Town. Again, no spoilers. But I found that the game really came into its survival horror sort of instances in these areas. I didn't really care for the sort of, at the night time, like, I thought it was just a bit more tense than usual, and daytime really posed no threat to me other than stupidly fucking powerful zombies like the big guys that hold rebar clubs. I really felt that those locations, those closed-in locations, like the fucking school was the most terrifying thing, because you really get to see how fucked up this place Harran is. Like, the outbreak's been around for a while, but you don't really realize how badly it's affected the residents. And like, when you start seeing the body bags of children, it really does start to hit you, and it's like, this is really spooky. And it's not just the fact that the lights are off and that there's zombies screaming in locked up classrooms. It's the fact that you are seeing the aftermath of an apocalyptic virus, and that it's taken so many lives, and it's really, really eye-opening just how aware this game is of what sort of source material it's dealing with. It's not some sort of ham-fisted zombie apocalypse game like certain movies are. This thing is really down to earth, and it really hits home, and I like that. I like that it takes itself really seriously, and it's not too stupid about it. I kind of like that. So what's the verdict on Dying Light? This game is a brilliant start to 2015's lineup. I know there's more games coming out, and recently Evolve has been released, and Monster Hunter 4 is coming out in a couple of days, and I'm sure I'm going to love those games as well. But this right now, instead of buying Evolve and having to wait a little bit longer, and just buying a game that is like free-running zombie killing. I mean, I've never played Dead Island, so this is sort of a new sort of territory for me. I genuinely enjoyed myself. I had lots and lots of fun, and I took the game seriously when it wanted me to take it seriously. So, with that in mind, I'm going to give Dying Light a 9 out of 10. Because this game, while it may be a little bit upsetting at times, and it does really have harrowing experiences, like 6 Days to Live or something like that one of those Flash games that Markiplier played. This one's really does sort of have that high production value, and it feels well made. It was good on launch, and it didn't have the same problems that Assassin's Creed Unity did. So, in that regard, it was a great game. So, this is going to be it for this episode of The Realm. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully have another game for you to review in the next video. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.